Hello friends, in this video I will tell you 3 incredible stories about outstanding personalities who changed the world of judo forever. These legendary masters not only mastered the art of judo, but also became its main popularizers, inspiring generations of athletes. Their life paths are a mixture of hardships, great victories, and huge contributions to the development of judo as a global phenomenon. Let's find out how they turned their skills into a legacy for all of us. The Second World War was a turning point for judo. The death of judo founder Jigoro Kano before the war, the wartime demands and surrender of Japan, the post-war occupation and the banning of martial arts, all of this contributed to a period of uncertainty in Japan in general and in judo in particular. The revival of this martial art after the war was primarily due to the hero of today's video, the legendary judoka Kyuzo Mifune, who is considered one of the greatest representatives of the art of judo after its founder Jigoro Kano, and many even call him the greatest judo technician. Kyuzo Mifune was the youngest of 7 children. Perhaps it was fate, as he was born just 1 year after the founding of the Kodokan Judo Institute by Jigoro Kano. As a child, Mifune was extremely stubborn, always getting into some kind of trouble or dragging others into similar situations. His father, Kyuzo Mifune, was a strict disciplinarian, and by the time Mifune was 13 years old, his father grew tired of the boy and sent him to an incomplete high school in Sendai, in northern Japan. There Mifune and discovered judo, which later became a very serious interest. Yes, so that after a year of training, when he was 14 years old and participating in a school tournament, he was able to defeat 9 opponents in a row. In 1903, Mifune enrolled in Jigoro Kano's Kodokan Judo Institute. After 15 months, he achieved his first dan in judo, and after a surprisingly short period of 4 months, he achieved his second dan. These rapid achievements, and the fact that he never once lost at the annual Kodokan Red and White tournament, are what earned Mifune his towering reputation. Over the next 20 years, Mifune's reputation and status continued to grow, and by 1912 he had achieved 6 th dan, in 1923 7 th dan, and won the 1st All Japan Championship, by which time he was already being called the god of judo. In support of this nickname, we can recall his famous bout with a sumo wrestler. When Kyuzo Mifune was 40 years old, he was challenged by a sumo wrestler who was 183 centimeters tall and weighed 110 kilograms. Mifune, who was not very big physically, being 159 centimeters tall and weighing 56 kilograms, managed to win the fight by successfully applying his signature sumiotoshi throw. Mifune taught at Kodokan, where he became chief instructor, and also taught at numerous universities, police departments, and military academies. In 1931, Jigoro Kano promoted Mifune to 8 th dan, and in 1937 he was awarded 9 th dan. After Kano's death in 1938, however, Mifune became the most influential mentor in Kodokan Judo. On May 25, 1945, Kyuzo Mifune was elevated to 10 th dan, becoming the 4th of 18 judoka to be so honored. Mifune possessed 2 strong leadership qualities. The first was a great love for judo and an abiding appreciation for the opportunity to train. Since Mifune was short and skinny, these physical attributes made him fast and difficult to throw, and constant injuries forced him to examine aspects of his training that he might otherwise have missed. His second quality, however, was his kind attitude toward his students and his genuine interest in their welfare and success. Along with other great teachers of his time, he taught that the real goal of judo was not only to win, but to embody the truth contained in judo. He often reminded his students that judo was about perfecting character. His teachings emphasized the importance of throwing your opponent off balance, constantly striving to improve your technique, strategizing to allow your partner to move first, and never giving up. Mifune actively practiced judo throughout his life, and some judo legends tell us that in his 60 years of practice, Kyuzo Mifune never lost a match, nor was he ever dropped. Mifune was also an accurate and inspiring writer, and his words of wisdom, encouragement, and direction are a motivation for all martial artists. Never stop training. If my opponents train 1 hour, I train 2. If they train 2 hours, I will train 3. The Japanese martial art of judo had a very difficult fate in the Soviet Union. The path of the first Soviet judoka Vasily Oshchepkov was also thorny. Oshchepkov lived a bright but short life. He brought judo to the Soviet sport, but abandoned it in favor of sambo. He worked for the Soviet security services, but was shot as a Japanese spy. There were a great many rumors and speculations. So who really was this mysterious first judoka of the Soviet Union, who can rightfully be called the founder of the domestic martial art of sambo? Vasily Oshchepkov was born in Sakhalin in 1893 in a civilian family of a prisoner Maria Oshchepkova and a carpenter Sergei Plisek. About his mother is known only that for the escape from the Perm prison, she received 60 lashes and was sentenced to 18 years of hard labor, which she served on Sakhalin, and died when Vasily was only 8 years old. Mores in Sloboda, where Oshchepkov spent his childhood, were like its inhabitants. It was considered the norm to beat those who could not stand up for themselves. The same orders reigned among the children. That is why Vasily, being still a child, participated more than once in brutal yard fights. August 23, 1905, under the humiliating for Russia Portsmouth Peace Treaty, Japan established control over part of Sakhalin south of the 50th parallel. In 1907, Vasily Oshchepkov as an orphan was sent to the Japanese city of Kyoto, or rather to the Russian colony, which was under the patronage of the Orthodox mission. There, in a church seminary, he began his studies with the prospect of becoming a clergyman. However, studying at the seminary did not prevent all willing seminarians from practicing judo with its creator, Master Jigoro Kano. When practicing with Jigoro, Vasily, having the hardening of a yard fighter, immediately took a liking to his mentor. On October 29, 1911, having put in a lot of effort, Oshchepkov entered the Kodokan Institute, the headquarters of the world judo community. In those years, training in Kodokan was harsh and sometimes even cruel. Older students, the more skillful judoka, would mercilessly throw newcomers onto the hard tatami, choking and breaking their arms. The falls often resulted in injuries and fractures. None of those recruits who enrolled with Oshchepkov subsequently did not manage to stay in school until the end. They all failed to withstand the harsh tests. But Vasily did, and in the end so mastered judo that he counted on receiving a master's title, and such an opportunity was given to him. He received the first dan after half a year of training in Kodokan in 1913. He was recognized as a master of judo, which in itself was very surprising, as master's degrees were not handed out left and right, especially to foreigners. Moreover, Oshchepkov earned praise from Jigoro Kano himself, and that was worth a lot. After all, the Japanese master was always stingy on praise. After a few more years of hard work in the Kodokan school, and Oshchepkov again passed the exam to the strict teachers, who again were unanimous in their decision. On October 4, 1917, Vasily Oshchepkov was awarded an even higher master's degree, the second dan. Oshchepkov returned to his homeland as an educated man who was fluent in Japanese and English. Therefore, in Soviet Russia, Vasily became a secret agent of the Siberian military district and collected intelligence in Japan and China. And after completing his service and returning to Novosibirsk, Vasily Oshchepkov once at one of the meetings demonstrated his mastery of judo. He with his bare hands easily coped with attackers who were armed with knives and sticks. As a result, in 1929 were organized training courses in hand-to-hand combat for the command staff of the Moscow garrison, which was headed by Oshchepkova. In fact, the first judo school in the Soviet Union was created. In a short period of time, Oshchepkov, who had completely lost contact with his foreign colleagues due to the close nature of the Soviet Union, managed not only to make judo truly popular among Soviet sports, but also to change it and adapt it to the Soviet reality, creating a completely new martial art. Oshchepkov then had an understanding that in its pure form judo will not be able to solve all the issues of self-defense. Gradually, the strict, often ritualistic style of martial arts acquired the features of free fight, which took into account the best techniques from other national schools of wrestling. This was the birth of a new martial art, sambo. By the end of the 30s, Oshchepkov Sambo differed significantly from the classical Kodokan Judo, surpassing it in many respects. It included various sporting and applied techniques borrowed from other martial arts, and in fact was a unique system of self-defense, thanks to which Sambo wrestlers after 6 months of training could successfully fight with the holders of the 4th Dan of Judo, which required many years to obtain. The mass repressions that began in 1937 did not bypass the country's famous coach Vasily Oshchepkov. He was accused of espionage in favor of Japan and arrested. According to some claims, Oshchepkov was shot almost immediately after his arrest. According to another version, the first Soviet judoka and founder of Sambo died on the 10th day of imprisonment from a heart attack. Almost every mixed martial arts fan has probably heard of the Kimura pain hold. But few people know about the legendary judoka Masahiko Kimura, after whom the hold was named. A natural athlete, Kimura achieved a meteoric rise in judo due to his amazing physical abilities and passionate desire to be the best. But he is most remembered for his unrivaled work ethic and rigorous training. Kimura was born on September 10, 1917 in Kumamoto, Japan, and began practicing judo at the age of 9. The boy was not just a natural for judo, he was a prodigy, as he achieved the rank of 4th Dan black belt by the age of 15. In 1935, at the age of 18, Masahiko Kimura took part in the famous Kodokan tournament, a survival tournament, where wrestlers divided into 2 teams, red and white belts, fought each other and tried to win as many bouts as possible in a row. Kimura won 8 consecutive bouts, losing only the 9th, and that was more than enough to earn him the 5th Dan, making Kimura the youngest judoka to achieve that rank at such a young age. But despite this success, the year 1935 was also a bad year for Kimura, as he suffered his first 4 defeats. Kimura was so angry at his failures that he decided to quit judo, but as a result, somehow managed to refocus his thoughts and efforts and become arguably the greatest judoka in history. And those 4 defeats, suffered at the age of 18, would be his only defeats in competitive judo. After this, Kimura redoubled his efforts in training and vowed that he would avenge the defeats. He continued to hone his skills as hard as he could and became incredibly proficient in his favorite throw, the Osotogari. The fall after which was so severe and injury-prone that his sparring partners often asked Kimura to limit his use of the technique to protect himself from injury. In the fall of 1937, Masahiko Kimura took part in the All-Japan Judo Championships, quite easily defeating the first 2 opponents, both with his crowning throw Osotogari. In the final, he met the best judoka of those years, Masayuki Nakajima, and who, in addition to all this, was also 13 centimeters taller and almost 20 kilograms heavier than Kimura. Throughout the fight, Kimura could do nothing with his opponent. Several times they flew off the tatami. By the end of the fight, the competitors were so tired that both of them almost fainted, but neither of them could earn a single point, and then an additional round was announced. Nakajima's and Kimura's kimonos were wet with sweat, and they could barely stand on their feet. But when they were given time to rest, Kimura noticed that Nakajima was actively massaging his legs, and he realized where his opponent's weak spot was. As soon as the bout resumed, Kimura worked his way to Nakajima's legs, threw him down, and performed a hold. The bout, which lasted 40 minutes, was over. Masahiko Kimura became the champion of Japan. But on this achievement, he was not going to stop. Then Masahiko thought that he won by accident, and only because he was younger and tougher than his opponent. The thought began to creep into his mind that maybe he wouldn't be able to repeat this victory. And since then, the desire to win every time turned into an obsession. Kimura was no longer willing to give up the title of best judo fighter to anyone. But how to do it? Thought Masahiko. Because there are so many talented judoka who train as much as him. They are full of desire, determination, and strength to take away his title. Then he decided to develop his own unique training system, thanks to which he wanted to become invincible. This system included daily training for 9 hours, consisting of thousands of push-ups and practicing some elements of throws to automaticity, where, at night in the forest, Kimura's opponents were often ordinary trees. All these efforts bore fruit, and Masahiko Kimura won 2 more All Japan Judo Championships, becoming a 3-time champion of Japan. In 1943, Kimura joined the Japanese army, where he taught judo. After the war, he returned to competition in 1947 and won the West Japan Judo Championship. And then in 1949, at the age of 32, he won the All Japan Judo Championship for the 4th time. This ended Kimura's athletic career as an amateur judoka and began his career as a professional judoka. In 1951, Kimura traveled to Brazil with another judoka, Yukio Kato, who accepted a challenge from the legendary Brazilian jiu-jitsu master Leo Gracie. The rules of the bout were set by Gracie. The bout could only end by submission or loss of consciousness if one did not count. Kato and Leo were about the same size. During the bout, Kato threw Gracie on the tatami for a while, but the mats were pretty soft, so the throws didn't do much damage to Leo. Then the Japanese judoka decided to apply a choke hold, but that was his big mistake. Leo skillfully escaped and caught Kato by himself, took him for a choke, as a result of which Kato lost consciousness. Leo then challenged Kimura, who accepted. Unlike Kato, Kimura was much bigger than Leo, but that didn't stop Brazilian fans from declaring that their master would finish the Japanese. Masahiko Kimura already from the first minutes of the fight showed his superiority in the stand-up fight, repeatedly throwing the Brazilian. After that, he started to choke the Brazilian on the ground. After many years, in 1993, Leo once recalled in an interview that he passed out then, but nobody noticed it. If Kimura had continued to choke me, I would have definitely died. But since I didn't give up, Kimura released the choke hold and engaged in the next technique. The release of the choke and the pain from the next technique brought me back to life, and I continued fighting. The painful hold that Gracie woke up from was called a reverse shoulder knot. The entire 20,000-seat stadium fell silent, but Leo wasn't going to give up, and then there was a snap in the silence. It was his arm breaking. But even after that, Gracie didn't give up, and Kimura, continuing to twist his arm, broke another bone in Leo's hand. That was the end of the bout. Gracie's corner threw away the white towel, admitting defeat. After this bout, in honor of Masahiko, the painful reverse shoulder knot technique by which he won was called Kimura. In the early 60s, Masahiko Kimura stopped competing and focused on coaching, spending the rest of his life teaching the art of judo. Kimura coached several world-class judoka, including Japanese champions and Olympic medalists. For example, Kimura's students included Canadian Douglas Rogers, who won a silver medal at the Tokyo Olympics, and Japanese Masaki Nishimura, who won bronze at the Munich Olympics. On April 18, 1993, after a long battle with lung cancer, Kimura died at the age of 75. But with a technique named in his honor, the memory of Masahiko Kimura will live on for as long as judo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and mixed martial arts exist.